Welcome back to the Sports Business Take Podcast, your home for sports industry news with a little personality. I'm Paul Hine. He is Zach Creekmore. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing good today, Paul. Having a good day. It's Saturday. The Premier League is back. Graham Potter's back in the Prem at West Ham.
I was
So
watching.
I'm excited. I'm having a good day.
Guess what I watched over breakfast this morning?
The Prem.
West Ham Crystal Palace. Damn right.
How it
So
should be.
I am going to visit our old stomping grounds today and head up to St. Joe's for a visit for the night. So that'll be fun. Probably be weird to be back there though after like not being there for 6+ months, but I'm looking forward to it. And yesterday had an interview with one of the teams I got to the second round with and went pretty well. I got 50 minutes and it was scheduled for 40. So figured that was a good sign. There's 3 rounds though. And in the third round, I have to actually like go out, capture content, and then produce something.
That's
At
interesting. I like that.
Yeah, at least based on what they told me. Looking forward to continuing to do that and trying to work with some clients in the next week or two before I go back to UMass. I don't go back until the 28th or 29th. So
yeah, which is such a long break for you.
It is awesome. A long break. Yeah, it's getting to the point where it feels like, okay, everybody's going back to school. I'm still at home for 2 weeks. I'm kind of like ready to go back, because the last 2 years at St. Joe's, our break was like a month. This is a month and a half, maybe.
Mine was
like
2 weeks.
Right. This
I
is
was
more
back
like
February 2nd.
What would you have done if you were at home for 7 weeks? Because that's basically what I've had.
Probably get a full-time job. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
At a different college.
Right. Yeah. Like I thought I was gonna end up working with a lot of clients, and I really tried. I've been reaching out to like 5 every morning, and I've gotten a couple jobs, but not as many as I thought I would or would have liked to. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out. Definitely still trying to build that business is super challenging. I switched over my strategy from emailing to DMing. So like I'll find a team's Instagram account and hit them up on Instagram versus emailing them because I wasn't getting a ton of email responses. So yeah, That's what I've been up to.
Good. Winning the day, Paul. That's how we should do it.
I'm trying to, at least. Been taking a few online courses, Photoshop and After Effects, trying to learn that stuff because I'm going to need that, for the summer and going forward in whatever I end up landing. So that's pretty crucial. But it's funny. I thought it was going to be easy to learn from like an online course for After Effects, but you almost need somebody who knows how to do it to like look over and see that you're doing something right, because otherwise trying to teach yourself like where stuff is in the platform and how to access things, that's really difficult. And yeah, definitely more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Ditto, it is hard. Yeah, like the whole graphic design and that space is like you need to have an expert who could sit there and like walk you through it and do it with you, and that
absolutely
one-on-one learning experience is invaluable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, it's funny, in my interview yesterday they asked me what was the biggest thing that UMass provided you in terms of video experience, and I said like how did it help you, and I said I actually was pretty much self-taught before I got there, and now I'm grateful to have like a mentor, meaning my boss in the athletic department, who's really helped me see how to create different shots and help me like figure out how to use the software to better the video. And I mean, it's been an incredible difference in the last like 4 months, the quality of my video now to what it was over the summer. So super grateful for that. That reminded me of that for some reason. I saw you posted something from your part-time job the other night.
Yes, I was at Lectures on Tap, and I start more frequently there this week. So I'm pretty much in the city Monday to Thursday for the foreseeable future, which is exciting, running those events with Lectures on Tap.
Good. All right, that's awesome. Hang on. Before we go talk about what we're going to talk about today, did you see the UMass Fordham game?
No, I didn't.
The basketball game? Dude. Okay.
Was it good? Was it crazy? Give me the rundown.
So UMass played Fordham a few days ago, and there was the most free throws in the history of an NCAA basketball game. First of all, they combined, it was 120 to 118, which was like one of the top scoring games of all time in college basketball. one of our guys dropped 46, and that was a school record. And there were like 2 other records broken from that game. It got
Wow.
like national media attention. I saw that our basketball account collab with CBS Sports, and it got like 120,000 views or something, maybe more than that. I don't know, but it was absolutely crazy. Everywhere on my feed on Instagram, Twitter, like everywhere for like 2 days. And I immediately thought of you because I was like, UMass Fordham. Well,
It's
now we got
secretly the SBT Derby.
see. Now we got a little rivalry going.
I was
maybe.
tapping up the Fordham team and telling them
Yeah,
how big
right.
of an occasion it is. It's like
Now
the
we got
North
a little
Derby.
little in conference rivalry going on right now, at least for now, until we join the MAC. But yeah, all right. So let's talk about what is going on in social media, because the world is about to be turned upside down. It's actually kind of insane. So for those who don't know, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows at this point, because if you're online, you know about this. But TikTok is going to be banned in the US starting tomorrow. So that's a huge deal. But I don't think a lot of people know a lot of the details of it. So the law obviously was upheld in the Supreme Court a couple days ago, that requires TikTok to either sell the company to a non-Chinese owner or face a ban in the US to go into effect tomorrow, or they face fines each day. So the ban is due to potential of the Chinese using TikTok to gather information about American citizens, which could be a potential national security risk. Depending on like what you do. However, I don't think a lot of people realize that this ban only takes TikTok off of the App Store. Like it only takes TikTok off of the Apple App Store and Google, and you can't update it. That's it. So existing users can still have it on their phone. So it's gonna be there for a little bit, unless the updates are so large that it just renders it useless because you can't update the app. What do you think about how long that it's gonna last? Given that there are still going to be a lot of American users on it, which is half the country, by the way, 170 million users.
Yeah, I think that's an important point of realistically what the federal power has over our devices. Of like, they can't actually just go on your phone and remove the device, nor can they go and like make the current edition of it rendered useless, just because they don't have that enforceability power. But they do have the power to go and remove it from the place where you can get it, right? So they're not going to be updating and changing that. TikTok may still exist for another month, 2 months, right? I don't feel like we get app updates too frequently, but mine are on auto update, so I honestly don't know.
Right, exactly. I think everybody's are.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how long it lasts, but I think also it'll be interesting to see, because before we were researching it, I didn't realize like it's not just going to be deleted off my phone, because like that was totally my expectation.
See, exactly.
Right?
That's my point.
That's the expectation of the American person or the American people, and that isn't what's going to happen. I guarantee you, we're going to see on Monday morning when TikTok is still up, people are going to be like, "Wait, why is this app still here on the actual app?" Right? That'll be a thing that happens on TikTok. I guarantee it.
Either that, or they're going to delete it tomorrow, having no idea that they don't have to.
Correct.
And TikTok's going to lose a ton of users that way, and I think that's coming down the line anyways. But whether it is end up being sold or not, and we'll get to that later, but you're right. I do think that most people don't realize that it's only getting deleted off the App Store. I think a lot of people think like, okay, TikTok's just going to disappear from my phone screen on Sunday morning. That's not the case. If you have it, see, this is why you need to research like we do. Is it's so good to check your facts, because especially online, there's a lot of information that isn't 100% accurate, or like people don't actually know, that gets shared. And I think that's where a lot of this sentiment that TikTok is going to be gone forever or Sunday morning, is coming from, is like everybody's talking about how it's just going to be gone, and that's a fact, and they'll move over to Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or wherever. But that's definitely not a fact, especially when you consider the political landscape right now.
And I think another thing that I really want to point out, and I'm bouncing between thoughts here, but what people also don't realize is that the longevity of this app in the current state that it's going to be is going to be very user dependent. So someone who is looking
Absolutely.
to buy, and we'll get into this a bit later about what my thoughts are, what our thoughts are on the possible purchasing of TikTok. I actually think that the TikTok would not sell its entire entity, but it may sell that US specific rights to its app.
Yeah.
Which may put in question other things like the, what's the term, algorithm, etc., right? Algorithm licensing, all those things. But really, because we'll talk about what they're doing with the algorithm later. But it'll be really interesting to see how that kind of goes into effects. But the user experience and how users use the app post this ban will have a massive impact on where the direction that sale goes and the direction that TikTok goes with that.
I agree. I mean, that's assuming that, half of the American users aren't just going to delete it because they think they have to.
Exactly.
And so I brought up a little bit of the timing, and this goes kind of along what you were saying. The timing is super interesting due to the change of presidential administrations. So what's happening with the presidential administrations, for those who don't know, I mean, I think if you're an American, you probably should know, but
unless
I
you're
would hope. I would hope. But anyway, the Trump administration is going into office on Monday. The ban is set to take effect on Sunday, meaning the Biden administration would be the ones who have to enforce it. But they've already said that they're going to leave it up to the Trump administration to enforce it. So tomorrow, when the ban is supposed to go into effect, there's not going to be anyone to actually make it happen because the Biden administration said they're going to wait, and the Trump administration has said that they want to force a sale, or they want to be involved in forcing a sale. And Trump is very for selling it to an American buyer. He said, and I quote, "My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. Stay tuned." He put that out on Truth Social. So this is really interesting because this ban could not even be enforced for a little bit. What happens if he decides to give them, I don't know, a 90-day grace period or a 60-day grace period to try to find an American buyer for the app? Then the ban doesn't mean anything unless, for the next month or whatever, until that gets resolved. So, yeah, I think him being involved in negotiating the deal is going to be a big factor in whether this actually happens or not.
Absolutely. I think the massive factor here is TikTok's ability or TikTok's willingness to negotiate and work with the US in maintaining their US audience. But when you look at it, the numbers we have is they have a 1.6 billion audience. The US is 170 million of that, which to me is like, okay,
we'll be fine without it.
It's 10% of my audience. I don't really care, right?
Yeah, we'll be fine without it.
Especially because it's something where like the audience is going to actually be frustrated that they don't have TikTok anymore and probably mad at the US government. So it is giving, quote unquote, the TikTok a more powerful point in the user's view, no matter what it is for national security, right? That people want TikTok, right?
The one thing I'll counter that with from a business perspective of TikTok is if you lose the American audience, you're losing a lot of your creators. A lot of the most popular creators in the world are American based, and if they can't create anymore, then you're going to lose all of the audience that follows those creators. So many people have built their businesses on TikTok, have gotten famous on TikTok, have sold their products and services on the TikTok shop, and gotten sponsors from being on TikTok. Think about it like this. I'm going to use an example. Livy Dunn, famous from TikTok, so many NIL sponsors because she's a college athlete. Would that have happened without TikTok? We don't know. So you see how I'm saying a lot of people built their businesses on the TikTok platform. Are they going to be able to survive without it? But is TikTok going to be able to survive without those creators, a lot of whom are American?
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
It's funny. There was a kid in my high school who got like TikTok famous and made like 100K senior year or something. It was ridiculous. But that's a good example of people have built their lives on this, and there actually has been some pushback from businesses who have used this to build themselves.
Absolutely. I saw that on the news. In a lot of cases, it's the small businesses, right? Because what the claim is that TikTok's algorithm is really, really good with local areas. It makes
Yeah.
it super interesting, and it has a sense of locality to it. The other thing that I think is really what you're pointing out is that TikTok shouldn't be afraid of losing the U.S. audience, but they should be afraid of losing the U.S. influence.
Yes,
Right. And
exactly.
that's exactly what we're saying, of that creators, but also consumers in the US have a really strong impact on what tends to trend. It's Western influence, and the way
I
that the world
agree.
has gone since the First World War. Western influence has been really, really strong in culture movements. And you can follow that throughout both social media, but other trends as well. And it'll be super interesting to see kind of what happens and how it adjusts. Will TikTok move into this kind of space of unknown, or will it become something that is even stronger in these other areas because it feels more EU and Asia specific, which I doubt would be what would happen with a social platform,
Yeah.
especially when you're thinking that a lot of people want to be content creators, and to be a content creator or influencer in some way or form with your content, you really need an international audience. You never know who's going to connect with your platform, and you really want to produce that. I think another interesting point, and we kind of get more into it with YouTube versus YouTube Shorts versus Instagram versus TikTok, and kind of what the timing requirements are for you to monetize your content. And I saw a video on it the other day of, like, I believe for YouTube Shorts, it has to be under a minute, and I think for TikTok it has to be over a minute to monetize. It might be the other way around, but I'm not sure.
I believe YouTube Shorts is under a minute because, from what I understand from posting on our account, I changed our setting to 3 minutes so that I could post longer content. But
Right.
I do believe to monetize, you have to be under a minute.
Right.
That wouldn't surprise me, at least. But to your point, like, let's say we had built a lot of our following from TikTok, right? And we had gotten sponsors for our podcast on TikTok, and that was our only source of revenue. I would damn sure want to stay on TikTok. You know
100%.
what I'm,
Dude,
you
I'd
know
be
what I'm
telling you to
saying?
use a VPN. Like,
Yeah, right,
dude, what do you mean?
right,
We're in Sweden. Like,
exactly.
come on.
So from a small business and creator standpoint, I totally get it. You know, like, if we were raking in money from TikTok, I would be saying the same thing.
100%.
But that's not going to be the case, it seems like, you know? So I think you're right. Seeing how that influence adjusts, and whether the US will have any influence at all over TikTok, or how the US influence changes on every social platform,
Mm.
could change based on this decision of, is it going to get banned, or is it not? And as of right now, it's looking like it is, but we don't know that for sure because it still could be sold to an American buyer. That is the requirement that would keep it for an American audience, is it has to be sold to an American buyer. However, the parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, has said it will not approve a sale. That's from NBC News. So I think it's really kind of ironic and kind of funny that we're hearing all this stuff of the sale is going to happen. These different buyers are interested. You know, Elon Musk could buy it, rumored. Kevin O'Leary's supposedly put in a $20 billion offer with another investor. But ByteDance doesn't want to sell it. So what's the point of making an offer if they're not going to sell? You know, so by the way, that 20 billion is just reported. That's not a fact. But I do think that selling the app is going to be super complicated because, like Zach alluded to earlier, they're not willing to sell the algorithm. The Chinese won't sell the algorithm. So you're going to have to completely rebuild the entire algorithm if you're an American buyer. Which, the TikTok algorithm, by the way, is one of the most unique of any social platform in the world. I sent you a post last night that I thought was really interesting. It was from an ex TikTok engineer who helped build the algorithm, and he said that is so unique and different from, for example, Instagram and YouTube Shorts, that it won't be able to be copied.
Right, and here's my thoughts with that of, okay, we know that, we understand that. Dude, I hire that guy. I say, screw trade secrets. You're going to work for me. We're going to give you whatever. What's the terminology for you can't be hunted down by your Chinese employer in the U.S.
Like a
Extradition or something.
non-compete clause?
No, well, he probably has non-compete and trade secret related
Yeah,
writing in his contract. But
probably.
here's my thought process of, well, they're a company based in China, and you work for them in China, but you're in the U.S. and we're kind of
Did
giving
he
you.
work? I don't know if he worked in
I don't
China or
know. I
not.
don't know
But
if it was worked in China or worked in the U.S. But here's
anyway,
what.
I thought the comments were interesting. Is my point? And hearing
Yes.
from a TikTok engineer that the algorithm couldn't be replicated was super interesting to me because I'm thinking, well, okay, if you're an American buyer, why would you want to go through all that trouble of having to rebuild it? You know,
We'll
especially
have to
when,
rebuild it and not have the same product as well.
yeah, right. You could buy some of the assets, but you wouldn't be able to buy the asset that makes the platform what it is,
Correct.
and why American audience loves it because of that algorithm. You hear people talk about the algorithm all the time. Oh, my algorithm shows me this, my algorithm shows me that. That's a thing. So them having to rebuild that, I honestly don't think it's going to get sold based on everything that the parent company said and based on the fact that it would have to completely rebuild the algorithm. And maybe somebody's willing to take on that challenge and I'm wrong, but it just seems like it's going to go away for Americans completely.
Yeah, definitely. I think lean more towards that it's going to go away. Here's what I do hypothetically if I was Kevin O'Leary and if I was to buy it. I buy it. I say I'm not paying you the full crazy amount because I'm practically just buying the name of the app and the
Yeah,
rights to the app. And then I go and I hire every ex TikTok engineer that I can find, and I say recreate this goddamn algorithm and figure out how. I know it seems impossible, but I think you can do it.
yeah,
And I'm going to pay you an unrealistic amount of money. I go full BlackBerry strategy from the early 2000s of like, I'm just going to pay you crazy amounts of money to go and recreate this. I don't really care.
yeah,
Like, the contract says you can't. I'll make sure you're taken care of. I'll hire the best lawyers in the world and we'll make this happen. Like
yeah,
that's genuinely what I would do. As much as
yeah.
that's unethical, like that is what I would do.
I mean, it's not an awful strategy. I think part of an American buyer buying it would be to maybe clean up some things in the algorithm, obviously, that were what was posing the national security risk. So cleaning that stuff up and
Of course.
then building it back. I agree. But the big factor in this is also TikTok is just considering completely shutting down the American market altogether and pulling the plug. If they do that, then all of the conversation that we just had about selling is completely irrelevant.
Correct.
If they just say screw it, we're going to cut our losses, we're getting out of America, we'll go find new users somewhere else, then nothing else matters. It's completely irrelevant and it's completely gone. And why? Okay, so we're 25 minutes in. We haven't said why this matters yet for our specific niche. Why this matters is what we talked about earlier with the creators. So many people and so many sports teams have built their platforms off of TikTok that the strategy will have to completely change when you're talking about how you display your brand on social media. And
100%.
that's really why this matters. If you were a sports team right now, where would you go? How would you supplement losing TikTok?
I think it's hard, right? But I think if I was a sports team right now or a business right now, right? Because sports teams are businesses, and that's important to note. We are sitting down, and I'm having my entire team sit down, and honestly, I'm just trying to stay updated on what are the newest apps that are coming out and
Mm,
where are the general like the strongest value being created. Because already, what sports teams do, I don't think they content they create for TikTok does not exclusively go on TikTok.
no.
They create and it's shared to YouTube Shorts. It's shared to Instagram, right? They have an
Yeah.
entire content strategy where
Yeah.
these posts are shared to all these different platforms, and that is done specifically like with a plan. So I would not necessarily change that plan. I'm gonna keep going on, but obviously shifting my general strategy to Instagram and YouTube Shorts and trying to focus my success there, just because those are the other two strongest platforms at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I think we could see happen is there could be another TikTok sponsored app that isn't actually TikTok that arises where people just jump over to that and it's the same thing, and then that has to get banned eventually too. And the
Correct.
only reason I'm saying this is because over the last week or two, our account has gotten some follow requests, and when you click it, it says follow on Lemon. And when you click that, it says in the App Store, Lemon 8 from TikTok, and you can download it.
So TikTok's like, oh no, we already have a workaround.
Right.
It's
At
true.
least that's what I think based on like the few follow requests that we've gotten in the last week
I
or
think Google
so.
Lemon 8. I'm really curious of
But
this.
yeah, so
This
that
is
could be
sidebar.
this is a sidebar, but I mean that's a complete possibility. And I'll get to what I think is really going to happen. If I was a sports team, I would be going to YouTube Shorts right now, because the way YouTube Shorts works in their algorithm promotes bigger channels, right? The biggest channels gets their shorts promoted more. So you need a base following already. Sports teams have maybe some of the biggest base followings in the world, right? So if you're thinking about it like that, if I'm a sports team, I already got the following on YouTube. I can create the same content that I would have put on TikTok and put it on YouTube Shorts and have similar success. And I think you'll see a lot of people jump over to YouTube Shorts from TikTok because it's newer. Instagram obviously is still going to be very powerful with the Reels. That's going to take off and almost potentially create a monopoly. But I think you see YouTube Shorts grow a ton in the next year or two.
I think that's a great point. And I think TikTok not existing anymore will be good for both Instagram and YouTube Shorts.
Sure.
Personally, for me, in the type of content that I consume, I generally drive more towards Instagram just because of what I'm into. So I think it's very specific to the content niche you're interested in.
I've been watching a lot of YouTube Shorts lately.
Right. So when you're really into sports teams and that type of content and that type of consumption, it fits the YouTube Shorts platform very well. Specifically because you're not really looking into, like, a lot of the content that I follow is about art or creativity or people who are like designing brands, and that makes sense to watch on YouTube Shorts. But also, you don't really promote that YouTube doesn't promote that stuff as much.
You would be surprised. My entire YouTube Shorts is like photography,
okay,
Adobe stuff, like all creative stuff, and that's why I've been watching it. Is it's more informative than you think it is. It just depends. Where were we?
More informative than we expect, or
yes,
than I expect,
right.
And that could be just because what I use YouTube for is often like I watch sports highlights, I watch like old video game people who I used to follow.
As do a lot of people,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I use YouTube for. I don't see YouTube as the place where I'm like, ooh, I want to go and like, I don't know, consume short-term content. I'm more long-term content on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the YouTube short target audience anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
admittedly, like I'm 21, but also like I'm a bit older. I never really got into TikTok in general.
Yeah.
It's not a space that I consumed.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't on TikTok too much, but I think when I did get on it, it was purely because we were posting on it. You know, I wanted to post from our account on it. But in terms of where I think the attention is going to go, I think teams will follow wherever the attention's going.
Exactly. It's going to be the trends. What is the trend?
Absolutely.
Right? What is going to be that newest app?
So I just watched before we got on an interesting video from Jesse Cole, the owner of the Savannah Bananas, and he was saying that wherever our fans go is where we're going to go. You know, we'll go wherever the attention of our fans is and continue to provide great content for them wherever they want us to be. I think that's a great approach. Is wherever you think your audience wants you to be, that's where you should be, you know, regardless of having TikTok or not. They're an example of a team who got extremely TikTok famous, took off after they got TikTok famous, right? And maybe they wouldn't have succeeded without TikTok. Who knows? I think they would have, but you got to adjust, right? As in your strategy, you got to adjust. And I think that example, that line of thinking is what every team is going to have to do, is follow to where your fans are going to be. That's just going to have to be the adjustment.
Absolutely. And I think the interesting part of Jesse Cole's statement is a lot of social media strategy is often based on how do we win new fans or how do we win new people, right? But Jesse Cole's focus here, and the Savannah Bananas focus, is on their current audience and those fans, which I think is really valuable and super valuable to recognize. And that's going to be an interesting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not driving revenue. They have this saying, long-term fans over short-term profits. And I love that, first of all, but I think this is a really good application for that. Prioritize what your fan base wants, not trying to go to the platform that you're going to make the most dollars from. Attention beats marketing 1,000% of the time.
True.
In his words. I just finished listening to his second audiobook, so still on my brain.
Paul's got a little man crush.
No, it's just on my brain right now. But I do think that's the strategy going forward, is you're going to adjust to where people go. But I think that's the thing everybody's trying to figure out right now is, where are people going to go? Where is the attention going to go? How is the American market going to adjust from this? This is a big deal, Where are creators that have made their living on TikTok? Where are they going to now go? Are they going to focus more their channels on YouTube? Are they going to focus more on Instagram? Or is there going to be another platform that completely rises up? What did you find on Lemon8, by the way?
Here is the AI breakdown. Lemon8 is a social media app that's available on Google Play. It's a lifestyle community app that allows users to share photos and videos about their daily lives. Features content creation, content discovery, content sharing, content organization, and content interaction. Topics.
Yeah, so essentially TikTok made another TikTok.
Yes. Topics: fashion, beauty, food, wellness, travel, and home.
Mm-hmm.
How it's similar to other apps. Lemon8 is similar to Instagram and Pinterest. Lemon8 has a For You section that recommends personalized content.
Mm-hmm.
Lemon8 has a topics tab that shows you recommended and suggested posts. Who developed it? ByteDance. The same company that developed TikTok developed Lemon8. You can download Lemon8 from Google Play or the App Store.
Yep. So they already found a workaround. They were like 3 steps ahead of this. We'll just create another app, have people jump over to that, and then to make sure that TikTok users jump over to Lemon8, we're going to attach a thing where every time somebody follows you, it says follow on Lemon8, so that people know to jump over. They already had this planned out, which is crazy. I don't think a lot of people know that there is a Lemon8 app that is from TikTok. I didn't know until we had a follow request that said follow on Lemon8, and I clicked on it. I was like, oh, so TikTok just made another TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok made TikTok with a new color palette.
Yeah. That'll have to get banned eventually as well if it's the same thing.
Right.
But that's really interesting from a business strategy is, all right, our brand isn't going to be there anymore. Screw it. We'll just make another one. Same thing. That's a really interesting decision if you think about it.
Well, I think it's realistically like a common decision, especially from a lot of businesses. When something is like, oh, this is going to die, we go and we remake it in a new way that might get a different audience.
But people love new shiny objects.
Exactly. I never think they seem to have the same success. I think earlier in the episode, I was thinking of what's a great case study or example when something like this happened. And I thought specifically of like Flappy Bird.
Okay.
It's kind of like a weird shout out, different type of concept, but something that was similarly made and no longer sellable by a court decision. And you're going to, and they try to kind of rebrand it and make Flappy Bird 2, but Flappy Bird 2 never had the same success as Flappy Bird 1, right? And I think that could be a similar case with Lemon8, or Lemon8 could say, like, oh, this is gonna be great. People are gonna hop to this and continue. But the filter of how much you lose your audience is really strong when you have to download a new thing.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of people that are just like, screw it, I'll just be on Instagram or YouTube and not even bother to jump over to Lemon8. But I think that's such an interesting strategy to create an entirely new app that's basically the same thing that is probably going to stick around for a while. It gives you more lifetime in that market. From a business perspective, that's really damn smart.
It is.
But I don't think it's going to be long lasting. Like, let's say the ban actually does go into effect and Trump can't force a sale and they say, all right, TikTok's just shut off in the American market. Or, oh my God, I think I know what's going to happen.
Run it. What's your, before we get into the hypothetical, what is Paul's what will happen is
Trump's not going to be able to force a sale. TikTok is going to cut the American market off completely and then promote Lemonade as the new TikTok and regain their American audience.
And here's my
for
question.
a time being, at least.
Yes. How does that work? Because, right, we were talking about it earlier. Content creation is never specific to the U.S. With the internet, we're such an interconnected world. How do they connect Lemon8 to the EU and Asian TikTok audience to where the value is there for content creators to really engage on it over an Instagram?
They've probably done it across the world in saying that if you follow somebody, follow them on Lemon8.
So do you think they're going to try to drive EU and Asian consumers to go in, or EU, Asian, and African consumers to go say, we want you to use both TikTok and Lemon8? Do you think that's going to be...
that wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Think about it like this. If those users are on both apps, there's potential for them to buy things from both apps,
True.
which equals more dollars for ByteDance and for TikTok overall. So why would they not do that?
True. And I think for TikTok, it's a really great promotion strategy, and it's something you should do, and it's logical. But I think also it's really hard because our world is such a consumption-based world right now, especially with the internet and with social media. But winning your audience's time is so hard, and it's really, really, for me, mentally challenging to assess that as a content creator, I need to and Lemonade and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, where it becomes where this is like really difficult to promote myself in all these 4 different entities. And I don't know, unless they create a function where you can post both on TikTok and Lemonade at the same time, kind of like Instagram has done with Facebook. That might be a possibility, but it'll be really interesting. And here's the thing of, once Lemonade is so integrated to TikTok, of that it's really so clearly interconnected, the US, like, wouldn't that said previous court ruling still apply to Lemonade because it's so clearly just a TikTok rebrand?
Maybe or maybe not, because it is a different brand. I think if they get it, if it's part of the TikTok brand, then yes, I think you're right. It would apply. But if it is sort of a rebrand, they would have to go through the whole process over again through the courts to get Lemonade banned, which would be really interesting. And that could be entirely what happens.
Yeah, well, I think that's entirely what would happen if they went the way that I would go with it. Just because of the integration, but also because it's literally just like a changed name. And a changed name doesn't really change anything. It's the same product.
I wonder if they have the same algorithm for the For You page, or if it's a little bit different. Because if it's a little bit different, then maybe it wouldn't get banned in the courts. Maybe Lemonade is TikTok without the part of the algorithm that is the national security risk. I don't know. That could be a guess. I have no idea. But if that's the case, then maybe it doesn't get banned. But I do think where all this is leading is that there's just going to be no TikTok, and there's going to be no Lemonade in 2 or 3 years. It's just all going to be gone from the U.S.
Yeah. But I think in that time span, we may see an entirely different content type come into the forefront and be stronger, led by a different app or led by a different kind of social revolution, which could be super interesting.
This actually brings an interesting question for me. You just made me think of this. Do you think this is going to be a revitalization of longer form content? For example, YouTube, not YouTube Shorts, but like actual YouTube videos. Do you think people are going to be going more towards those versus they can't get it as easy with the scrolling now? And I know you can still do that on Instagram.
Right. And I think the point is that short form content is the strength of Instagram and even YouTube now. Like, that's how they're driving their algorithm. So even though I would love to see a comeback for long form content, I think the American consumer has a really hard time with the attention span.
I agree. The average attention span is under 6 seconds.
Yes, which is, by the way, dropped by 2 seconds since I was a child. So that's kind of sad.
It's probably dropped 2 seconds in the last 5 years, 10 years less. It is crazy, and I do think TikTok was part of the reason for that, or a big reason for that. I wonder how the attention span changes and how what the consumer wants changes going forward. Is it longer form content? Is it the same short form content on a different platform? You and I both think that YouTube and Instagram are going to have a big rise, but who knows? There are endless possibilities to come out of this for the way the social landscape looks.
Absolutely. Endless possibilities. And it's really hard to predict because you don't know what people are doing in the background. You don't know what random college kids are trying to be Mark Zuckerberg and are developing an app right now, right? You just don't know. And if I was a random college kid in computer sci and I was like, well, I can develop a social media platform, I'd totally do it. Right? This is the time to do it. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of where that goes and how that happens. And I will say I'm excited about it, but also really scared as someone who is in marketing, wanting to be in marketing. Obviously, marketing is so social media driven at the moment. How much of that is going to impact my career and what I do, and how much
mine as well. Yeah,
right?
both of us really.
So it really will interesting to see for us what it takes to be an industry expert in these kind of new topics and new spaces, and know
it's
where
always changing too.
correct
It's
where is
always
the
changing.
audience driving, right? What new social media platform can you get on that you become a revolutionizer to it? And that's what's really going to be interesting. How can you follow the trends?
Yeah,
And how do you know where the 12 to 15-year-olds are going?
true.
Which
Yeah,
is
because
which is
that's
generally
your
those
future
are the trendsetters,
buyers.
and I'm not going to shame. Like, I feel like those are the trendsetters.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it shakes out. All right, but I wanted one more thing on the TikTok thing. I
Yes.
wanted to ask you, in terms of the type of content that people are consuming, how do you think this changes that? I was thinking about last night, does Instagram's sound library now become uber important in what they have on there compared to TikTok dances or TikTok sounds? That's been a big trend in social media over the last 5 years since TikTok has blown up. How do you think that changes? What do you think is now determining the trend? Is it an Instagram soundbite? Is it still dances? What is going to determine that trend?
Absolutely. And I think it's a great question. So thinking about the sound library, how do musicians and creatives again interact with this changing world? We even hear it. Doechii mentioned it in one of her new hit songs. I forget which one it's called. I believe it's Denial by the River or something like that. I don't remember. But she's like, I'm making TikTok music. And that's what her not necessarily goal was, but that's something she's mentioning in her song. So maybe that was her goal of like, how can I target this and make sure my song goes viral? And if you followed Doechii, and this is me like, again, nerding out a bit, of her marketing and media strategy post creation was massive for her to be successful with this new album. And obviously it's been one of the biggest albums of the year. So really important to be able to understand what that creator is going to do and how they're going to react. And I think that's going to have the biggest influence if that creator continues to drive content through Instagram the same way they did TikTok. I think that'll be the trend. And if people continue to create the same way they did on TikTok through Instagram, that will be the trend. But we just don't know, will people create in that same way? Will Instagram push into that creation? Will they encourage that? Let us show you the trends. Oh, here's a sample you can do of templates and stuff like that. That be something that exists stronger, becomes more popular on Instagram? I know it probably already exists, but will that be something that people really go and drive to in a sense of this is nostalgia TikTok?
Yeah. So one thing I think Instagram could do to kind of recreate some of the or add on to their viralness in terms of what people can do and in terms of what actual content you put out. So I am a big CapCut user sometimes in creating art content.
Right.
So I'll see whatever, like for example, I just put out the AI filters of both of us, and yours did pretty well on TikTok. Mine didn't do as well. But my point is, TikTok is linked to CapCut in the sense that when you make something on CapCut, you can click a button that says share to TikTok and it posts it directly. Instagram needs to find an app like CapCut or just simply link with CapCut to do the same thing, because that's how you can recreate viral trends. I think a lot of people use CapCut to create their content. So in terms of if you're trying to connect with creators, that's where I would go. If I was Instagram, I would make a partnership with CapCut and say, hey, when you guys make something, when your users make something on CapCut, they're going to share it to Instagram directly. They're not going to have to save it to their phone and then post on Instagram. They're going to share it to Instagram directly. And, I think that could really help because a lot of people who try to post CapCut content on Instagram, for example, when I do it, doesn't work as well as it does on TikTok. It doesn't get the same views as it does on TikTok. So I think that's the strategy that I would take if I'm those two players going forward.
Absolutely. I think that's a great take and really well said and really well thought out. But here's the interesting thing for me of knowing Meta and what Meta do and how they do it. I don't see them partnering with another company. I could see CapCut reaching out to them and saying like, hey, we did this with TikTok, we'd do it with you. And it's just, you guys have to prioritize us and our content in the algorithm. But realistically, I also think that Meta would just create their own version of CapCut first.
They could do that too. That's entirely an option. But I think it would be easier if you had a base of users or a base of creators that already used an app rather than just building your own and trying to drive creators to that app. And that can be done. They already have so many creators on Instagram, but I do think that it would be helpful in terms of the attention grabbing that CapCut can provide.
Yes.
The ease of access to filters and templates, like you were saying. The templates are so easy to use, especially I didn't buy the paid version. I have the free version for us. But if you have the paid version, you have unlimited access to all the templates and whatever you want to create. It's very easy. All you have to do is drop 4 or 5 videos into a template and it'll do the rest for you.
Right.
That takes hours of editing time out of the process, and you can post so much more content that way. So I do think that something like that is coming with Instagram, with TikTok getting banned.
No, good, not good, but yes, you're right. 100% right. There has to be some form of streamlining and integration where you're really going to be able to drive content in a way that makes it easier for the creator, because you really again, back to the Jesse Cole concept, right? You want to go where your people are, but also by going where your people are, you make their life easy. They doesn't feel like they have to chase you, right? What the creator wants, and we're going to go like, okay, let's make it a dating metaphor, right? So I'm talking to this chick, right? And this is probably going to be really a bad segment, but right, you're talking to a girl.
I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this metaphor.
The girl wants to feel wanted, right? So let's say in this theory, I'm Instagram, the girl is the creators, right? If I make it really easy for her to feel touched, loved, and connected to me, it's going to be really easy for that person to want to interact with me, because there is a sense of I have a genuine want to be in your life, and that value is created, right? And I'm making it easy for them to feel that. I'm not making them have to chase me, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a value of an expression of that where you could also see psychologically an underappreciation of that and someone not value that. So, right, do you want them to feel the need to chase the algorithm, right? Do I want to play hard to get? So you have to play it in a little bit of two ways where you're trying to figure each other out and play this game of chess, right? And I think that's really what our social media space is going to be for a little bit. But I think TikTok really needs to aggressively go and say, how can we win creators to want to use our platform? And YouTube has to do the same thing of how can we win creators to have to use our platform or want to use our platform? How can we also, same way, flip it, similar concept, win the user to want to use our platform? Do we want it to be like they have to chase us, or do we want to chase after them? People like to feel chased. They want to be the one.
Yeah. It's kind of a chicken and an egg question when you think about users and creators. Do the creators drive the users, or do the users drive the creators? And that'll be a very interesting question to see play out in terms of where people are going to shift from TikTok to another platform. Are the creators going to drive the new attention on that platform, or are the users going to drive the new attention on that platform? That's something that I don't think anybody can know right now, but maybe you can predict a model that says okay, we're doing X number of views on Instagram Reels right now. With the addition of a percentage of a TikTok audience, we project that we'll gain X new views or X new followers or whatever it is. So I do think that is coming, but that'll be an interesting question to see play out, is how much does the creator have influence on a platform versus how much does the user have influence on a platform? Because in terms of content creation, there is no content to consume if there is no content to be created, but the content to be created cannot be consumed if there are not the users to consume it. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg question.
It's an ecosystem. Science words.
No, that's actually kind of a perfect description of it. It is a very cyclical ecosystem where everybody is trying to balance in harmony. And obviously there are some that are dominating the market and some, like, honestly, like our channels that aren't doing as well as they could. But man, I'm trying. That's all I can say.
Paul's in the boxing ring. He's throwing.
We're both trying. I mean, you've been helping me create content recently. I think we're going to come up with some good new ideas in 2025 for sure. We've already started to post more out of the box content than we were before. Before it was a little more formulaic. Now we're actually informing people on stuff outside of the episode. So I think we're doing good and we're going to get better. So
that's the goal.
In terms of where I think we're going to go with it, I'm going to go over to Instagram to focus our strategy over there because in terms of our YouTube channel isn't huge, right? So like I said earlier, the YouTube Shorts promotes bigger channels. So why would I focus on that as much? I'm still going to post on YouTube Shorts, definitely. But I think Instagram is going to be the main focus now. And we're on Twitter as well. But again, our Twitter audience isn't as big as our Instagram audience. So I think that's going to be our main focus. I think that'll be a lot of people's main focus because if you think about it, like YouTube is just growing. Instagram, I would say, is at the height of its powers and could even grow further. And Twitter is kind of losing users right now to another app that has very another similar app that has been built called Blue Sky. I don't know if you've heard of Blue Sky.
I have. Okay. I've heard of it.
So I'm on Blue Sky as my Paul Hine Media account, and I haven't gotten a huge following yet, but I do believe that there are people jumping over from Twitter to Blue Sky. Okay. So I wonder if newer apps like that, like Blue Sky, will say, hey, we see that TikTok isn't providing the short form content anymore. We have the ability to do that, but they don't have like a For You page where it's, where you're scrolling through the videos. I wonder if they now create something like that. You can post videos on Blue Sky, but you don't have that scroll effect,
Right.
So I wonder if newer social media apps or apps that haven't had that sort of For You algorithm will take that strategy up now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's 100% a good question of what apps re-strategize and realize there's a massive gap now in the social media kind of world and really go after it. Could Snapchat say we're really going to go after this? And I don't think they would. I think they have a different niche.
I also don't think that's what people use Snapchat for.
No.
And there is already that like Snapchat Play thing where you can scroll and see videos. But no one really uses it for that. Snapchat's for communicating with your friends. It's not really for consumption, I would say.
I like Snapchat video from time to time.
On occasion.
I watch my
yeah, that's about all I have. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see whether or not this ban actually happens tomorrow or Monday or in the next week, or if Trump says I'm going to give them a 90-day grace period, how does that change things? Will TikTok just pull the plug? So many questions surrounding this, and we'll have to see how it plays out. And we'll continue to update as the story goes along. So as always, thank you all for listening. Go check out our Instagram, our YouTube, our Spotify. Smash that like, subscribe, and comment button. And we will see you next week.
I love it!